Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on Danim Box. For those of you wondering what Danim Box is, it is a free script that allows you to adapt all your content to predefined boxes and will then make possible the creation of templates. In this video, we will see how to use it step by step through real examples. Before we get too deeply into the functionalities of the script, I will show you what is possible to achieve using this composition I have previously created. So let's play it. Here we have an animated lower third in front of an animated image, both created using Danim Box. As you can see, we have the name of our character, Paul, and a small description popping below it. Now let's imagine that we are working on a video with multiple characters. Because we use Danim Box, adapting our composition will be extremely easy. I simply need to select my image layer, right here, get the new one here, and then drop it using the Alt key into my timeline, like this. Then I can go modify the lower third by simply clicking onto the text layer. Let's call her there Dennis. And Dennis will be a big fan of Christmas. Now, let's play the animation from the beginning. As you can see, the lower third has automatically adapted to the new text. On top of that, everything is also fully responsive. Let's say this video is made for a campaign that will also run on social media. We might therefore need the video to also be exported as a square format. So let's modify the dimensions of our current composition by Ctrl K and pick 1080 by 1080. Let's play the animation again. You can notice everything adapted automatically, which will save us tons of time. Another use case of Danim Box I would like to show you before we dig into the tutorial is the creation of multiple lines boxes. In this example, all the boxes you see are actually linked to a single text layer. Let me make it visible for you. As you can see, the content of the boxes match the content of the text layer. And if I decide to change the content of the text layer with something different, as you can see, everything is perfectly aligned and formatted. I'll just need to hide my text layer and my composition is fully ready to go. Before we dig into this tutorial, we will first start by installing the script. After downloading it from our website, you will be able to copy the danimbox.jsxbin file and paste it into the Script UI Panels folder of After Effects. Mine is already installed, so I don't need to do it. Once done, we can go back to After Effects, then to Window, and if you scroll down, you will see that Danim Box is here. Launch it, and you will see a small window opening. This window is dockable, so you can place it wherever you want in your workplace. Personally, I like to place it here next to my timeline. Alright, now that we have installed the script, it's time to create our first box. To do so, we simply need to click on this icon, Create Box. Once created, you will notice a new shape layer as well as a text layer with the effect Danim Text Box applied on it. Before digging into this effect, I'm going to change the background color of our box to make it pop out a bit more. As mentioned previously, the box is actually a shape layer as shown by the small star icon next to its name. So I click on it, then go to Fill, and I will choose a nice bright green. Like this. Okay. Now that our box pops out a bit more, let's go through the Danim Text Box effect. So let's click on our text layer. The first thing we will do is edit our box size and see how the text responds to those changes. By going to Box Setting, then Box Size, you will have access to two parameters that are width and height. Those parameters are set in pixels and work as you would expect. So if I change the width parameters from 500 to 250, like this, we now have a box which is 250 pixels wide, and it works the same way for the height. One thing you will notice though is that whenever I edit the box, the text will always adapt as well. If I decide to edit the text with something a bit longer, this is a longer example, you will notice that our text layer automatically adapts its size to fit the box perfectly. We have previously seen how to create a basic box, and now we will see how to create a dynamic box. The goal here will be to set a minimum box size and a maximum box size within which the box will automatically adapt. To do so, we will use both the width and height parameters, as well as the delta x and delta y parameters. In our current example, we have a box with a width of 500 pixels. Let's say I want this box to adapt from a minimum of 500 pixels to a maximum of 800 pixels. 800 minus 500 would give us a 300 pixel range, so I will need to put 300 in the delta x parameter. To make it obvious, I'm going to edit the text with a longer one. As you can see, when I start typing, the box is 500 pixels wide because it's its minimum size, and our text isn't long enough to make it grow. However, as soon as the text gets longer, you can see the box extends itself. To make it clearer, I have created a small diagram that explains everything. So as we have seen before, no matter how short the text is, the box will not shrink below its minimum size. Minimum size that is defined by the width parameter. And as soon as your text gets longer, the box will extend until it reaches its maximum size. Maximum size defined by the width parameter plus the delta parameter. If you're a bit lost and you're unsure what your minimum and maximum size are, there is an easy way to know it. You can simply go to Preview and select Min Size, which will display the minimum size of the box, or Max Size, which will display the maximum size of the box. We will now go over a more advanced feature with Danim Anchor. Danim Anchor will allow us to attach any element to a box or even a box to another box. To use it, we simply have to select the element we want to attach to the box, then click on the icon Create Anchor. Once clicked, you will notice we now have a Danim Anchor effect that has been automatically applied to the square layer. The first thing we will want to do is going to Target Layer and set the layer we want the element to be attached to. In our case, we will select the box layer. However, it's important to note that the Danim Anchor effect can be applied to anything and doesn't necessarily need to be applied on a box. So, if you're animating something completely different than boxes, you could still use it to create any type of rig. But let's go back to our box. After we linked the square to it, by default, Danim Anchor will position the square at the center of the box. Let's say we would like the square to be positioned on the top left-hand corner of the box. To do so, we will need to use Target Align and Source Anchor. Target Align is used to set the position of the square in relation to the box. So in our case, we want it to be set on left and top. Source Anchor, on the other hand, is used to specify what part of the square we want to act as the anchor point. For example, if we want the square to be positioned within the box, we can select left and top. As you can see, the top left-hand corner of the square matches the top left-hand corner of the box. Alternatively, if we want it to be outside the box and only touch its corner, we can select right and bottom. Now, it's the bottom right-hand corner of the square that matches the corner of the box. One point to be aware of is that when your shape layer has an outline, the anchor will be set in the middle of it. We also have the option to select the anchor point of our square as the source anchor. I'm going to move the anchor point of the square to make it more visible. Now, if I select anchor point in horizontal and vertical anchor, the anchor point of the square will match the top left-hand corner of the box. In the case you would like your target align and source anchor parameters to always match, you can simply click on Link Anchor to Align. You can see that when I switch horizontal alignment from left to right, that the anchoring of the square adjusts accordingly. It's actually very handy and can save you lots of time. For the rest of this tutorial, I'm going to uncheck Link Anchor to Align and set back the source anchor to center, center. Now we will cover how to animate the square along the edge of the box. To do so, we can click on Animate. Here we will find two parameters, X-animate and Y-animate, both having a value set as a percentage. This will allow the animation to still work, even if we decide to modify the size of the box. To create the animation, we can set a keyframe at 0% and another one at 100%. If we preview the animation, the square is automatically going from one corner to the other. One thing to be aware of is that 0% always refers to the position we have set in target align. If I change horizontal alignment from left to right, you will see that the square is now positioned on the right. No matter the target alignment, when set at 100%, the square will always go for the opposite side of the box. Finally, I'm going to scale up the box to show that the animation property automatically adapts to any box modification. We will now see how to attach a box to another box. This can be extremely useful, especially to create lower thirds, and this is exactly what we're going to do in this section. First, I'm going to select the secondary box and click on Danim Anchor. Once clicked, I will go to Target Layer and select the main box layer. By default, the secondary box will be positioned at the center of the main box. In our case, we want the top left-hand corner of the secondary box to match the bottom left-hand corner of the main box. To do so, we will go to Source Anchor and select Left Top. Then we can go to Target Align and select Left Bottom. Now, if we replace the text of the main box, we can see that the secondary box will stick to the bottom left-hand corner of the main box. Additionally, if we need to move the entire lower third, we can simply move the main box and everything will automatically follow. So far, we have only seen how to use the target layer parameter in target detection. However, other options do exist and we will cover them now. Upper nearest box and lower nearest box allow you to target the box that is above your selected element in the timeline or the box that is below your selected element. In our case, if we select lower nearest box, we can see that nothing changes as the targeted box is already below the selected element in the timeline. However, if we select upper nearest box, we can see that the secondary box goes back to the center of the composition. This is because there isn't any box above it in the timeline, so we are currently targeting nothing. These two functionalities are especially useful when you're copying and pasting boxes from a composition to another. They will save you tons of time by allowing you to not redo all the targeting every time. The last parameter is composition, and to show how it works, I'm actually going to use the main box. We will create a Danim Anchor and choose composition in target detection. When composition is selected, our main box will consider the composition to be a bigger box, and both target align and source anchor will work accordingly. If in target align I select left top, the main box will now have its center position at the top left-hand corner of the composition. Additionally, if in Source Anchor we select left top, the top left-hand corner of our main box now matches the top left-hand corner of the composition. Lower thirds are usually at the bottom left of the screen, so we will go to Target Align and select Bottom, then Source Anchor and select Bottom again. Here we have an issue. The main box does stick to the bottom left-hand corner of the composition, however, doing so it actually pushed the secondary box outside the composition. To fix this, we will need to change the anchor point of the lower third and set it at the bottom left-hand corner of the secondary box. So, we can go to our secondary box and in Target Detection we will select Composition. Then, in Source Anchor, we will select Bottom. The secondary box now perfectly matches the bottom left-hand corner of the composition, however, it is in front of the main box. This is because the main box target detection is still set on Composition. Let's put it back on Target Layer, targeting the secondary box. Now, let's select Top in Vertical Alignment and Bottom in Source Anchor. The lower third is perfectly positioned at the bottom left-hand corner of the composition and will stay here even if we make any of the box bigger. Ideally, we would also want the lower third to be slightly apart from the side of the composition. To do so, we simply need to click on Offset and we will have access to three parameters: X, Y, and Z offset. They all have their value set in pixels. In our case, we will set an offset of 100 pixels, both in X offset and Y offset. The beauty of using Danim Anchor and offsets is that everything is perfectly responsive. So now, if I change our composition to a square one, you will see that the lower third will automatically reposition itself. We will now go over the options we have to play with the alignment of the text. By default, the text is aligned at the center of the box. To change that, we can go to Text Settings and Text Align Margin. Then we will have access to two parameters, X Align and Y Align. As mentioned previously, they are both set on center by default. If I change the X Align to left, the text will stick to the left of the box. Alternatively, if I choose right, it will stick to the right of the box. We are going to leave it on left for now. Let's assume we do want the text to be aligned on the left, however, we also want to leave a margin between the left edge of the box and the text. To do so, we will go to Left Margin and set the dimension in pixels of the margin we want to create. I will choose 50. So our text now have a 50 pixel margin. Additionally, we can add margin for all sides of the box. Let's add a top margin of 100 pixels. Some of you might be surprised by the fact that the box is displaying a margin at the top but also at the bottom. This is because the Y-align parameter is currently set on center. As soon as I select top, you can see the margin now only applies to the top of the text. And if I apply a margin to the bottom of the text, they are now completely independent. Based on what we have learned so far, we can try to create a lower third that we will position at the bottom left-hand corner of our composition. So, I will create a new box by clicking on Create Box. Then, I will modify its size to 0 pixels wide with a delta of 1000 pixels. Doing so, we are actually creating a box that will fully match our text until the box reaches its maximum size of 1000 pixels. Now we need to move the box, so we select our box layer and we position it about here. As we are creating a lower third, we also want the text to stick to the left of the box and only expand towards the right. To do so, we will go to Text Align and choose Left. Alright, now we can try the lower third with a longer text. You will quickly notice that we actually have an issue with the box expanding towards the left. Why is that? We indeed made sure the text was aligned on the left, and the text did actually stick to the left of the box. The issue here comes from the fact that the box is expanding, and by default, boxes are set to expand from their center. To fix this, we need to go back to the box settings, then box align. We now have two parameters, X align and Y align. In our case, we need to change the X align to left. Alright, let's now give this lower third a second try. As you can see, now the box is properly aligned to the left. However, you may also have noticed that when changing the value of the X align, the box moved. Let me show you again by changing its value to right. This position change might be annoying on some projects, so we have included a solution. Instead of changing the box align parameter within the effect panel, you can alternatively click on this icon, Align Text Box. Once clicked, you will be prompted to choose an alignment for your box. In this case, we want our box to be centered on the y-axis and aligned to the left on the x-axis. One important thing to note is that the Align Text Box button does change the alignment of our box, but also the alignment of the text in Text Align. Let me show that again to you. So here we can see, when I switch between alignments using the Align Text Box button, both Box Align and Text Align parameters are affected. In most cases, you actually want them to be aligned, but it's important to be aware of it in case you want to do something a bit unusual. Also, the alignment is modified based on the maximum size of the box, so you might want to select max size in the preview mode before modifying it. Let's shorten the text a bit and modify the alignment to give you an example. And when I compare with max size selected, you will notice that the box actually stays at the same position. Alright, let's select back Final in preview mode. Now that everything works fine, let's put the lower third back on the left. Something we haven't talked about yet is when to use the delta Y. In most cases, we will want to use the delta Y when the text in our boxes has a chance to be on more than one line. Let's demonstrate that with a text over 3 lines. As we currently have a delta Y of 0, the height of the box is obviously not expanding. Now, let's fix it and add a delta Y of 200. As you can see, the box is now expanding, but as seen previously, it's doing it from its center. To fix this, we can go back to Align Text Box, and instead of center left, we will pick bottom left. Okay, let's position back our box where it should be. Now, the box can expand its height when needed, but will do it even if we have a very short text. This is problematic, as this text is way too big. Danim Box actually gives us the option to set a maximum scale for the text. To do so, we need to go to Text Settings, then Scale Limit. Here we have two parameters, minimum scale and maximum scale. Both are defined as a percentage of the text layer font size. In our case, 72 pixels. So, if I set the maximum scale to 100%, it will mean that our text won't be bigger than 72 pixels. If I set it to 50%, our text will never be bigger than a font size of 36 pixels, as 50% of 72 equals 36. We are going to choose 100%, and to avoid the box being too tall, we will set its height to 0 with a delta Y of 300. Now we can edit the lower third, and no matter if we use a very short text or text over a few lines, the box will remain consistent. To show you what are the animation possibilities in Danim Box, we will create an example where a text enters the box from the left. To do so, we will go to Text Settings, then Text Offset. Here we have Move parameters and Scale parameters. Both are doing exactly what you would expect them to do based on their name. In our case, we will need to modify the XMove parameter. If you click on the arrow, you can see that this parameter is set to go from -100 to 100. This is because it is set as a percentage, which is very convenient, as this will automatically adapt the animation no matter the length of the text or the size of the box. As you can see, when the parameter reaches -100 or 100, the text is exactly positioned at the edge of the box. To create the animation, we will simply add a keyframe at -100% and another one at 0%. We can ease it in and out, and now you can see the animation is perfect. As mentioned previously, if we change the text to something a bit longer, the animation will still work. Of course, this works the same way on the y-axis. To demonstrate that, I can simply cut and paste my keyframes from X move to Y move. To make this animation a bit nicer, we will also add a box animation. To do so, I will go to Box Settings, then Box Transform. Both parameters, X transform and Y transform, are set in %. By default, they are on 100%, as it represents the full size of the box. However, if I put 50%, we will have a box that is half the size of the current box, and if I put 200%, we will have a box twice the size of the current box. To go with the text animation, we will make the box appear from its top. We will go to Y transform and set a keyframe with a value of 0, then another one with a value of 100. We ease it in and out, and we can now preview the animation. You can see the box is expanding, but we would like it to do it from its top and not its center. As you have probably guessed, this has to do with the box alignment. The box transform functionality is based on the alignment of the box. Let's change Y-align to top and play the animation. The box now animates exactly the way we want it to. One issue I'm sure you have noticed is that the text is currently visible even outside the box. To solve this, we simply need to create an alpha layer for the text. We could do it by duplicating the box and setting the alpha manually. However, Danim Box has actually a much quicker and convenient way to do it. With either the text layer or the box selected, we can click on this icon, Create Alpha. As you can see, once clicked, the alpha is automatically created and perfectly matches the box. This would still work even if we decide to add effects on it. For the example, let's apply the CC split effect on the box. As you can see, the box is now splitted and the text is still visible outside of the distorted box. This is because the alpha needs to be updated whenever a new effect is added. To update the alpha, select it, then click again on the Create Alpha button. Danim Box will automatically update the current alpha and will not create a new one. One important thing to be aware of while animating with Danim Box is this static marker. This marker always needs to be placed after the last keyframe of your animation. I'm going to show you why using this text animation. As you can see, we are able to move the marker as much as we want and without any issue, as long as it is positioned after the last keyframe of the animation. However, when I move it before the last keyframe, the entire animation will be modified to something completely different. This is because Danim Box uses this marker to know at which point the animation is over. So always make sure that the marker is placed after the last keyframe. If by mistake you have deleted the marker, your animation will also have problems. In this case, you can easily create a new one by selecting your text layer and pressing the asterisk key of your numpad. Then, you will need to double-click on the new marker and call it static. Once recreated, the animation will work again perfectly. We are now going to learn how to duplicate a box. The first way you may consider doing it is by selecting all your layers and duplicate them using Ctrl-D. At first, it may look like it's working well. However, you will quickly notice that the newly duplicated box is still linked to the first box. If I modify the original box, you will see that the duplicated box follows it, but its text doesn't adapt. This is because the new box is still targeting the original box. To fix this, we can go to the new box layer, then to the target layer parameter and pick the new text layer. Same thing for the new text layer, where we can go to Box, Source, and pick the new box. And finally, we can go to the alpha layer and select the new text in target layer. Now, the new box is fully independent, but you will agree that the process is definitely not ideal. That's why Danim Box has this functionality here, Duplicate Box. Before we use it, let's delete the box we just created to make it a bit more clear. To duplicate our original box, we can simply select any of its layers, then click on the Duplicate Box button. This new box has duplicated all the properties of the original box, but is also fully independent, so we can now edit it if we want to. Let's assume that you have created this nice lower third and that you would like to use it in multiple compositions. Instinctively, you would probably try to do it by selecting all your layers, copying them using Ctrl-C, and pasting them into the new composition using Ctrl-V. However, when doing it this way, you can notice that it's not working very well. The reason for this is that when copying your layers manually, the targeting between each layer won't be copied correctly. To solve this problem, we can go back to the original composition, select all the boxes, then go to Duplicate Box and click Copy. Then we simply need to go to the new composition, click again on Duplicate Box and select Paste. As you can see, both boxes have been correctly copied with all the animation properties. In the case you would like to delete the box including the text, you can simply select all your layers and delete them as you would do normally. Alternatively, if you would like to only delete the box and keep the text, you can select any of the layers, then go to Delete Box. This functionality will delete the box, the alpha, and also all expression created with the box. We will now see how to link the size of two texts together. Let's say I want the two texts we have here to be the exact same size at all time. To achieve this, we will have to link the size of each layer to the other. To do so, we can go to Text Settings, Scale Limit, Reference, and pick the other layer, so in this case, layer number 3. And we will do the exact same thing on the other text layer, so in this case, layer number 1. As you can see, the size of both layers has automatically adapted to match the smaller one. If we replace text number 1 with a longer text, you will see text number 2 resizing so they always keep the same size. Now, let's say you would like one layer to always be smaller than the other. To do so, I will select my text layer and reduce its font size. In this example, I want text number 2 to be half the size of text number 1. So, I will have to reduce its current font size to half the font size of text number 1. Text number 1 having a font size of 72, we need to set the font size of text number 2 at 36. In case you would like to link more than two texts together, this is perfectly doable. To do so, we will have to create a loop between the three text layers. In order to illustrate this possibility, let's create a new box and position it below text number 2. The first thing we will need to do is link this new layer to the other two in order to form a loop. So, text number 1 needs to be linked to text number 2. Text number 2 needs to be linked to text number 3. And text number 3 needs to be linked to text number 1. Alright, let's do it quickly. Once again, if we want text number 3 to be half the size of text number 2, we simply need to divide its font size by 2. Now, when the size of any of our boxes change, all the text will adapt to keep the same ratio between each of them. We are now ready to cover the multi-line rig functionality of Danim Box. If you remember, in the introduction I showed you a text layer that could be automatically displayed as multiple boxes. The idea will be to display this basic text layer as 4 boxes that will be fully adaptable and easy to customize. To begin, we will go to multi-line, then multi-line rig. A pop-up appears and asks me how many boxes I want to create. As the text layer is on 4 lines, I'm going to create 4 boxes. It's perfectly possible to change it later on, so don't worry if you didn't create enough boxes or if you created too much. So here we have the multi-line rig. As you can see, it's actually boxes that are all linked to a null. So if we want to move the entire rig, we can simply select the null object and move it. All the boxes will automatically follow. It's important to note that each box of the multi-line rig is a normal box and can be modified as would any other box. Actually, if you click on each box, you will notice that they have Danim Text Box and Danim Anchor applied on them. In theory, you could even recreate a full multi-line rig using all the Danim Box properties we have seen so far if you wanted to. So, if we want to change the text of multi-line box 1 only, we can simply click on it and type a new text. However, in our case, what we want to do is link this multi-line rig to this text layer. To do so, we will click on the null object and go to text content, then select the text layer. Automatically, the multi-line rig will use the content of the text layer, respecting each line break. If we go to sizes, we will have access to width, height, and delta parameters. In the case of a multi-line rig, each of these parameters will be common to all of our boxes. If we change the delta x to 800, all of the boxes will have a delta x of 800. Obviously, as we don't have the exact same amount of text on each line, we end up with boxes having all a different size. To fix this, we can go to Adapt Axis and select X. This parameter will make sure all of the boxes of the multi-line rig have the same width and will adjust it to match the biggest of the box. If we select Y, it will work the exact same way, but for the box height. And if we select X and Y, it will adjust both the width and the height. This is the one we will select. We now have all of our boxes that are exactly the same size. However, if we bring the delta X down to 400, we will notice that the text inside each box have a different size. To fix this, we can simply click on Disable Scale Reference. Now, all the texts are the same size and they have adjusted to the smallest of them. You may be wondering why this effect is activated by default, as in almost all cases we will actually want each text to have the same size. Well, it's actually for performance reasons. Deactivating it can be a bit greedy in terms of resources. No worries, however, it's still perfectly usable. Let's say we would like to position the multi-line rig at the top left-hand corner of the composition. If you remember, when setting the number of boxes for the multi-line rig, I told you this could be modified later on. This is exactly what we're going to do now. First, we will need to add extra content to the text layer. As soon as I break to the next line, you can see that the aspect of the multi-line rig is completely modified. This is because the text layer is now going over 5 lines, while we only have 4 boxes. To solve this, we need to add an extra box, and it's actually super easy. We simply need to select any of our boxes and click Duplicate. One thing to note if you delete some lines of the text layer is that the multiline ring will automatically make the affected box invisible. Another issue we have here is the alignment of the box. Indeed, you may have noticed that when adding more boxes, the rig is now going outside the composition. This is because the entire rig uses the null object as its anchor point, and as you can see, it is currently centered. To modify its alignment, we can go to Align. In our case, we would like the anchor point to be positioned at the top left-hand corner of the rig. Therefore, we can simply select X-align, left, and Y-align, top. We can move the null object to put the rig back in place. Now, we can remove or add as many lines as we want, the rig will stay in position. Finally, we will go over the spacing and margins parameters. The first one, spacing, is used to determine the amount of space you want to set between each box. Logically, if you set it at 0, the boxes will be glued to each other. Offset can be used to offset each box on X and create a staircase effect. Lastly, we have all the margin parameters that work the exact same way as when applied on a single box. In this section, we will see how to customize the multiline rig using basic expressions. We are going to recreate this example that automatically switches box colors each time we create a new line. You could do it manually, however, if you have a very big rig with many lines, that could quickly become tedious. When using the expressions, we will be able to add or remove lines with the rig adapting instantly. To begin, I'm going to select my null object, then right-click in the Effect panel, select Expression Controls and Color Control. Rename it Color 1. Then, create another color controller and this time rename it Color 2. These two color controllers will be the one we use to customize the aspect of the multiline rig, and all the boxes' colors will be linked to them. For Color 1, we will choose a dark gray. And for Color 2, we will pick a light green. Now, we need to link each of the box color to these parameters. Don't forget to lock the padlock so they always stay visible. To begin, I'm going to add a color to my text by going to Animate, then Fill Color, RGB. This will allow us to modify the color of the text through expressions, otherwise it could only be done using the color fill of the character panel, and that's not what we are looking for. So I will press Alt and click on the stopwatch, then write var color 1 equal and pick the color 1 parameter. Then I will do the same thing with color 2. By the way, if you're writing lots of expressions in After Effects, we have developed another tool called MOGRT that could really speed up your workflow. You can find it on AE Script if you're interested. Alright, let's get back to our boxes. We have set variables for both colors. Now we need to tell the layer which one to use. This will depend on the position of the box within the rig. To find it, we will need to unlock the padlock, and in the text layer effect panel, you can see we have the parameter child index. Don't worry about this error message, it's simply due to the fact we have not finished writing the expression yet. The child index parameter gives you the position of the box within the rig, so the first line will be number 1, the second line number 2, and so on. Even if we switch a box's position in the timeline, you can see that the child index automatically adapts. Now let's go back to the expression. We will create a variable for the child index that we will call index. We will need to determine what color to use based on this index position. Actually, we only need to find out if this index variable is an odd number or an even number. To do this, we are going to use modulo. For those of you that are not familiar with modulo, here is a quick explanation. Modulo is a math operation that finds the remainder when one integer is divided by another. So if we do 7 modulo 2, the result will be 1. I have actually created a diagram to make it easier to understand. So when we divide 7 by 2, what we are actually doing is finding how many times we have the number 2 in the number 7. If we look at the diagram, we can see that 2 is present 1, 2, 3 times inside 7. However, we do have a remainder, and this remainder is the result of the modulo. From this example, you can deduct that to find out if a number is even or odd, we can simply apply a modulo 2 on it. If the result is 0, then the number is an even number, and if the result is different than 0, the number will be an odd number. Now that we have clarified what a modulo is, we can get back to the expression. So, if index modulo 2 is equal to 0, we have an even number and we will return color 1, otherwise we will return color 2. We will then copy the expression and paste it on the box background, where we will want the colors to be the exact opposite. When copied, you will notice that the expression returns an error. It's actually totally normal, and if you look at the error message, you will see that multi-line child does not exist. If you look at the effect panel, you will notice that the effect multi-line child isn't actually applied on the background box. However, you have the effect target content, which is targeting the text layer. Text layer that we know has the multi-line child effect applied on it. So to fix this issue, we simply need to update the path to the multi-line child effect by adding the target layer in the expression. Now, the error message is gone, however, when you look at the box, we can't see the text. That's perfectly normal, as we kept the condition in the expression the same. So our box is currently the same color as the text. To fix this, we can simply tweak the condition in order for it to return the opposite color. In this case, we will simply need to switch color 1 with color 2. Now, our expressions are working and ready to be copied on the other boxes. We can copy them using Ctrl+C, then paste them onto the new layers using Ctrl+V. Once copied, you can see that the customization is over and automatically adapt no matter the number of lines we are using. If we duplicate one box and add more text, the new box will have the colors applied on it. Finally, we will cover the responsive aspect of the rig. As we have seen previously with the lower third, if we want the rig to be responsive, we will have to add Danim Anchor to it. So we select the null object and click on Danim Anchor. In target detection, we will select composition. Let's say we want the multi-line rig to be aligned with the top left-hand corner of the composition. We will go to Source Anchor and select Anchor Point for both parameters. Anchor point that has been set in the Align property of the multi-line rig effect. If we want the box to match the top left-hand corner of the composition, we need to go to Target Align in Danim Anchor and select Left Top. Bonus tip, if you link your target align parameters to the X and Y align parameters, you will have a rig that always stays within the composition. At the moment, if we change the horizontal alignment to right, the rig will be outside the composition. Let's link the horizontal alignment to X align and the vertical alignment to Y align. Now, whenever I change the align property in my multiline rig effect, the rig always adapts nicely. We can even add some offset and it will still perfectly work. Finally, if we change the size of the composition, we can see that the rig is fully responsive. We will now see how to automatically format lines using Danim Box. Let's say you have lots of paragraphs that you would like to format in a similar way. Instead of doing it manually, you could go to Multi-Lines, Format Lines. Automatically, we have the effect Format Lines added to the effect panel. Inside the effect, you will have many different parameters you can play with. The first one, Activate, allows you to activate or deactivate the format lines effect. Max lines will set the maximum number of lines you want your paragraph to take. Unit and unit per line work together and will allow you to set the line break after a specific number of words or characters. In our example, let's choose 5 words per line. As you can see, nothing happened, which is perfectly normal as our current text is too short. Let's copy and paste the text from this longer text layer to see what happens. As soon as I pasted the text, it followed the rule I specified in the format line effect. However, you may have noticed that we only have 4 words on each of the lines instead of the 5 specified in unit per line. It's because, by default, Danim Box will average the number of words per line to get something more balanced. If you would prefer Danim Box to display exactly the number of words per line you specified without averaging, you can tick the strict line length box. Once selected, you can see that the text now sticks to 5 words per line. We will now cover how to create a box with images. First, we need to drop down an image in the composition. To create a box, we simply need to select the image, then click on the Create Box icon. Unlike a text box, an image box will have to be created from a pre-existing image and will always be created with an alpha layer. Automatically, Danim Box will create the box at the exact size of the image. To begin, we will reduce the size of the box to 800 by 800 in order to create a square box. By default, the preview mode selected is Fill. This mode will make sure the image fills the box entirely, no matter the size of the image, and can therefore cause part of the image to be outside the box. One other available preview mode is Fit. In this mode, Danim Box will make sure every pixel of your image is visible, so it will stop as soon as your image reaches the sides of the box. As you can see, if I use different images, they will all be entirely visible, no matter their dimensions. In my opinion, the Fill mode is the most interesting of the two, and that's the one we will be using for the rest of this section. Similarly to a text box, we will find the delta X and delta Y parameters. As the image is in the landscape format, if we set a delta X of, let's say, 300 pixels, we can see that the image automatically adapts as Danim Box has detected we are losing less information doing so. The remaining 2 preview modes are min size and max size. They actually work the same way as for our text box. If we select min size, we can see the dimensions of the box without the delta, and if we select max size, we can see the dimensions of the box with the delta. We will now go over the animation functionalities of the image box. As you will see, some of them are really similar to the text box animation. When you go to box settings, you will probably recognize the box align and box transform parameters. They actually work the exact same way as for a text box. If we go to box align and set the X align on center, then go to box transform to modify the box, the expansion of the box will be done from its center. However, if we set X align on left, the expansion of the box will be done from its left, etc. Also, and as you would expect it works the exact same way on Y align. To show the next functionality, I'm going to set back X align on center. Now we can have a look at the animation concerning directly the image and not the box itself. To do so, we will have to go to Image Settings, then Image Offset. Here we have two parameters, X move and Y move. They are very similar to the one we have seen previously when animating text. They actually work the exact same way and also have their value set as a percentage. To create a slide-in effect of the image, we simply need to create a keyframe at -100% in X move and another keyframe at 0%. The -100% keyframe will position the image on the left side of the box, and the 0% one will bring back the image at the center of the box. We can now ease the keyframes and preview the animation. We now have a nice slide-in effect. If we want the slide-in to happen from the right, it's the exact same process, but instead of -100%, we can set the keyframe at 100%. Now, the slide-in is happening from the right. Of course, if we switch the image to a different one, the animation will still work no matter the size of this new image. We will now go over the available options regarding automatic animation using Danim Box. If you go to Image Settings, then Image Animation, you can see that the current type of automatic animation selected is static. It simply means that we currently don't have any automatic animation set up. If we change it to Auto-Linear, it will automatically create a linear animation of the duration of the image layer. Depending on your layer duration, this may create animations that are way too quick. To solve this problem, we can set a limit to the amplitude of the animation. By going to Max Move and put, for example, 50 pixels, our animation will now run for 1 second with a movement limited to 50 pixels. Now let's assume that you want to keep your animation as it is, but also want your layer to last more than 1 second. We can't just expand the layer, as this would also change the duration of the animation. To solve this, we will need to select Custom as the image animation type. Now we can set the beginning and the end of the animation using the Custom Interpolation parameter. The value of this parameter is set as a percentage and ranges from 0 to 100. To set the beginning of our animation, we can create a keyframe with a value of 0 and at 1 second set another keyframe with a value of 100. This will create an animation with a 1 second duration going from 0% to 100% of the value of the max move parameter. Let me reset everything and give you another example. Let's say we want to create an image animation with a 200 pixel movement going from the left to the right and back to the left. All of this over 2 seconds. First, I will check we have the custom mode selected, then I will set the max move to 200 pixels. To set the start of the animation, I'm going to the beginning of the timeline, then create a new keyframe with a custom interpolation of 0. At 1 second, I will add another keyframe with a value of 100, and at 2 seconds, another keyframe with a value of 0. We can ease all the keyframes and preview the animation. Something you may have noticed is that depending on the format of your image, you will have either an horizontal or a vertical animation by default. This is because Danim Box will automatically go with the orientation where the image is going outside the box. However, you may want to create only an horizontal or vertical animation. To do so, Danim Box will make it very easy. You simply need to go to Force Animation and select vertical or horizontal. Additionally, you can precise the direction of the animation with the parameters horizontal direction and vertical direction. If you click left to right, the animation will go from the left to the right, and if you click right to left, it will go from the right to the left. Very straightforward. One use case you may encounter on a regular basis is the creation of your full screen image box. To create one, we will have to set the box scale to 100, then create an expression for the width and height parameters. I press Alt plus click on the width parameter stopwatch, and I write down discomp.width, and same thing for the height with discomp.height. You can also make sure your box is always centered using the expression discomp.width divided by 2 and discomp.height divided by 2 on the box position. If I now change the size of the composition, you will see that the image will automatically adapt. Before we end this video, I would like to quickly introduce you to the next step if you like this tutorial, and that is Danim Creator. Danim Creator is a software that will allow you to create customizable templates that you will be able to use outside of After Effects. This is great if you have to render an animation over multiple sizes, color schemes, or even different fonts. You can even export variation of a video only using a spreadsheet, which is super useful when working with non-designer clients. The interface is super user-friendly and easy to comprehend, so I would recommend you to have a look at it. Danim Creator is currently in free open beta, and a complete step-by-step tutorial is coming in the next few weeks. If you don't want to miss it, please subscribe to the channel and press the like button if you appreciated this tutorial.